Today, you'll understand why many retail investors still lose money, and I'll actually tie in this topic together with this new CPF life cycle fund.
The government announced a new scheme option that allows Singaporeans to invest part of their CPF savings for potentially higher returns. This money will be put into a professionally managed fund.
What it can address for retail investors as well as what it cannot. And before we start, you know that since 10 years ago, 71% of investors have actually beaten the 2.5% CPF OA interest rate. 71%. So it's not bad, correct? So if you have always wondered whether you should be investing on CPF OA, I think this positive statistics is an overwhelming yes. And in these statistics, we didn't really see how much they have beaten the 2.5%. Is it 2.6%, which is barely above? Or is it 26%? If 26% per annum, then what already? So that's why I'm a big advocate of investing CPF OA. And also in this table, let's address the other two sections. 17% have barely made any money. What are they doing wrongly? But they are not the worst. There's also a 12% who have actually lost money. Wow, how do you actually lose money when the majority of people who have invested CPF OA have made monies? It can be explained, and today I have a 4-part framework to help you understand why also. And can this CPF life cycle product actually save them? Long story short, I think the answer is actually no, and I'll justify why. So let's start with the first key reason, which we know can create investors to lose money, and it's none other than fees. Are fees important? You bet so, because if you, for example, break even on your investments but face 1.5% of fees, you will have lost money. So fees can impact investment returns, but usually fees are more used when we talk about profits, correct? Specifically eating away some profits. Because if you have made 3% and then your fees are 1.5%, you're only left with 1.5%, and you have fallen into that 17% who did not even beat CPF OA interest rate return despite making positive gains. And usually when we talk about fees, there are actually two main areas. The first is robo-advisors. And typically their positioning is that they are cost effective. That's mainly true, but also it's not built to have one-to-one coaching. There are many factors as well I'll share with you in this 4-part framework. Fees is the smallest component of it, and we'll rank it accordingly, so right to the very end, stay tuned for it, is the biggest component. The second part of fees which are usually mentioned is this topic on ETFs. And for that measure, low-cost index funds, and usually they are measured compared against actively managed funds. But also to this topic of comparison, it's seldom mentioned also that there are actively managed funds who have exceeded their benchmarks. They provide Sing dollar hedging, which can be valuable, especially with US dollar declining, correct? And in the current CPF IS scheme, there are already many low-cost funds. They include Amundi US Prime, that gives exposure to S&P 500. They include Infinity Global Funds. And for anyone looking for pure equity, these two options are fairly low cost already. So it's not like there are no low cost products for CPF IS. But to this point, I also add, with the life cycle fund coming on board, and they are likely going to charge maybe 0.5% per annum. We don't know details yet because it's in 2028. They are right now in this process of opening up, and they're going to qualify some vendors for it. DBS and OCBC have mentioned interest in running this with CPF. I believe some fund houses and platforms will also throw their hat to it. And the main outcome of this is to possibly add more pressure to lower the fees for actively managed funds, especially those in the ILP segment. You know, there are so many ILPs for CPF investments that are just merely feeder funds into another fund itself. So if the competition heating up from government's initiative, I think there'll be some consolidation, which in a way is good for all investors. But today's topic again is why retail investors lose money, correct? So let's move on from the 4th factor, fees, to the 3rd factor, and it's none other than strategy. To be exact, it's actually wrong strategy. So what exactly is strategy? The first component, it's greed. You know, so many investors get greedy when market shoots up and fearful when market comes crashing down. And of course, with this kind of behavior, the investment journey is bad. Strategy of what you buy and how you handle your own emotions impacts the end investment results, impacts losing money way more than fees, because if you buy a lousy fund in the right sector that's booming, you still have made some money, I'm sure. But if you buy the lowest cost fund in the wrong sector, you'll still be losing money. So that beats the next question. Josh, what do you mean by right sector? If we know what's the right sector, we all what already, correct? So let's define a bit on right sector. Right sector, to be specific, let's bring on this other term in your strategy, which is to be sufficiently contrarian. Contrarian is to stay away from the herd because the herd only sees past performance. Goes up means safe, buy. Boom, buy at the top. Herd sees go down, must be going to zero, sell, head for the exits. Then before you know, rebound already. So staying from the herd is to think independently, to do what Warren Buffett says, buy when people are fearful and sell when people are greedy. So to this point on contrarian, in 2025, the best performing index was actually emerging markets, followed by developed markets. US, for once, lag behind these two, and global indexes are overweight on US right now because US has all the mega caps, correct? A robo portfolio may not solve this because it merely tracks global index usually. A life cycle fund, I guess, also may not solve this. Handling emotions and being sufficiently contrarian is what I bring to the table when I manage portfolios. If you are keen, look for my links below. I can help you bring massive clarity to your retirement plans, just in case you have policies and investments all over the place, or you have loans, you don't know what to prioritize, or how to move idling cash at the right pace. These are areas I can coach on, and these are raving reviews from my private clients. Links below. Thank you very much, and let's move on to a third angle of strategy which I'd like to share with you also. Time horizon to a goal. Now for retirement, if you think of the time horizon, usually when someone is young, there is a long time horizon, correct? And when you're old, naturally the time horizon gets shorter in theory. In theory, because actually I don't quite believe in it too much. I believe I'm still in equities when I'm old. My mom has been a Singapore stock investor all her life. She earns dividend income and she swears by it. Maybe that's why I'm interested in investments, but that's a story for another time. But I also see all the wealthiest people and wealthiest families. They own equities, they own stocks, they own real estate. They don't move monies to fixed deposits. They don't take total risk off even though they are old already. And to this part of time horizon to go, that's actually where the CPF Life Cycle Fund helps tremendously. And if we were to draw out what they are, you realize if someone was young, the time horizon is long, maybe 10% in fixed income bonds, then the balance in equities, correct? 90% equities. Because market crash, that's a long time horizon, correct? Then as the person becomes older, 10 years later, then become maybe 50% equities, 50% fixed income. In theory, that's correct to reduce volatility in a portfolio. And then when the person is almost retirement, 90% now is in fixed income and bonds, 10% is in equities only. So in theory, you move from this to this to this. You are more aggressive and grow when you're younger, and when you're older, closer retirement, you become more defensive. You prioritize preservation. That's why very little equities really, not much volatility. So that's what a CPF Life Cycle Fund solves. Not bad, but is it revolutionary? Actually not also. In Singapore, for CPF IS approved ILPs, there are already some out there. This is one example, Pruling Adapt 2035. They all have the same life cycle function. Then what about low-cost ones abroad? Let me show you some examples from Vanguard. Check out their website, Target Retirement Funds. You browse it, you can find Target Retirement 2030, 9.3% on a 10-year basis. Not bad. But as we browse lower and lower, 2035, 2040, why is this rate of return going up? That's because there's more and more equities in theory. And when equities have gone up, naturally you can achieve double-digit returns. But of this 10% plus also, do note this is US dollar base, which means when you're converting Sing dollar, it's a few percent lower. But still not bad. Still beats CPFOA 2.5% comfortably. In my guess, these Vanguard funds will not likely be offered as part of the CPF Life Cycle product. And I'm guessing also that government or CPF might want it to be housed in Singapore, Singapore listed and built over here so that we have more control over it. After all, there's so much of our national money going there, correct? So strategy again, strategy beats fees. It has a bigger impact, but the two of them would get eaten up by this second factor, which is actually tolerance. Tolerance, what exactly is it? All successful investors have exceptional tolerance for, firstly, failure. Failure in investment choice. Because behind every win, there's a failure story, a loss. Not every stock that a good investor buys also goes up. Not true. Some go down immediately after buying. Warren Buffett has his own share of misses. Some go down as low as 50% even. Some may regret so much that you feel stupid and embarrassed. So the point of investing well is, can you tolerate this kind of failure or not? Then the second part of tolerance is actually tolerating downturns. After you buy, it drops. Can you sleep or not? Because if you lack tolerance for market punishment, market pain, very simple, I have solutions for you also. The first is, of course, speak to seasoned investors. Maybe subscribe to this channel. Let me and let the community over here be a sounding board for you. Because when it comes to market crisis, if you're experienced enough, you kind of know it comes and goes. The second is to, of course, read widely. In the same line, and it's all meant to help you improve your mindset to get the right expectation in. And as always, I have my own ebook, 28 Days to Financial Freedom. Inside it, I have tools on investing, mindsets also to help you in the journey. Grab a copy of it in the links below. The third is to invest the right amounts, small enough so that you can still sleep well. Then you can tolerate downturns, correct? Not come down and then you panic, right? And the fourth is to learn to focus on your wins, to build positive reinforcements, to pat yourself in the back. You know, recently my son learned cycling. When it comes to cycling, there's also a lot of failure, a lot of pain that you need to tolerate because you fall down. Right? Nobody learns cycling without falling down. That's impossible. So when it comes to his cycling, I actually filmed down parts where he managed to turn in circles, pedal for 20 steps, 30 steps consecutively. And I show it to him. So these are the small wins. That, oh yeah, I can cycle well. Then from there you build confidence. Your mindset shifts to focus on your wins instead of dwelling too much on the times that you fail. So again, these are 4 simple methods that you can build your own tolerance to downturns. Because tolerance is the thing you need in equity markets. Equities, they can come down very quickly. 10%, 20%, like what you see in COVID, in tariff crash. But it's also equities that can beat 2.5% CPF OA rates in the long term. And to this point, you know what? I suddenly thought, there is no equities with no downturns. That's BS. Impossible. No downturns, likelihood, it's a Ponzi scheme. You know, many years ago, there's this Bernie Madoff thing. He actually ran a fund that went up 17 years, almost straight line, until he got caught. Because it's a Ponzi scheme. Market moves in cycles, one. As long as you can tolerate, you can ride the cycles and make a lot of money. And previously, there was even this very famous fund, Magellan Fund, run by Peter Lynch. Before he retired, he was a star fund manager. He made 20+% annualized return. And in his journey, there were drawdowns, big ones, 50% drawdowns. So tolerance is needed, correct? And investors in his fund, not all made money. And the irony is, the fund is good, but the investor themselves can't tolerate it. Which brings to today what we are facing. If in the months ahead, there's some war news, market comes crashing down, or some AI bubble crash, market comes crashing down, can you tolerate that uncertainty? Can you tolerate that pain? And in better measure, can you use those as opportunities to buy or not? Very counterintuitive when the world is screaming crisis, is going down to zero, so on and so forth. This decision is still up to the investor one. And if the CPF life cycle fund is selected by investor with no experience, no tolerance, then it doesn't matter the fees, then it doesn't matter the strategy also. It's not guaranteed interest, it's market returns. And to this point on tolerance, it can also explain why many in Singapore make monies more in property than in the stock market. In property, you cannot suka press sell. You want to sell, it takes 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. And sometimes some urgencies to sell just pass by already. But when the market crash, when anything is liquid, you can press the sell and nobody can stop you. That's why many a times we are our own worst enemies as investors. So we've covered a few points. Tolerance is bigger than strategy, which is bigger than fees. All these are part of the framework to successful investing and why also many retail investors lose money. But they are all dwarfed by this biggest factor. It's none other than patience. Patience. It's really needed in investing. No two ways about it. You know, there's so many investors who think that, hey, at least they didn't sell when market crashed 15%. They have some tolerance. But actually, when the market bounces, they are very happy to exit with a minus 5% loss, or break even, or 1% gain. Because they saw minus 15% to now, oh, at least it's better already. So they don't have the patience. Or worse, they face a prolonged multi-year bear market. Like what we see in global financial crisis, S&P 500 was negative. 1.5 to 2 years is a long time of pain and uncertainty. If you are a younger investor today, you would not have experienced it. If you are an older investor, leave in the comment sections. I've also been through that journey myself with my own stories. And more recently, in REITs, in China equities, it's been a multi-year bear market. People run out of patience. People look to invest in something different. With the shiny light syndrome, correct? Hey, people are making money there already. Now, nice gold. I better sell, cut loss. Break even, exit quickly. Let's go and buy gold. They have this shiny light syndrome. They go and chase the new hot thing and repeat this cycle of bad performance and losses over and over again. And speaking to this point, you know, a few years ago, STI cannot make it, right? Straits Times Index. So many people were advocating, sell STI. Go to US S&P 500, better. But what happened in the last 2 years? STI actually did very well, correct? 3,000 plus point to now 5,000 already. Suddenly shoot up. And in the last year, 2025, actually outperformed S&P 500. Don't ever do that. You know, when it comes to investing, always have this mindset, short-term patience and long-term impatience. What does it mean? Long-term impatience when it comes to investing for your own retirement. Actively do things that can move the needle somewhere down the road. Save up more, read more, etc. etc. Because if you want 5,000 per month passive income from your dividend portfolio, you need a $1.2 million portfolio, correct? Which means you need to compound all the small efforts and don't miss a day on it. But also, when it comes to long-term impatience, short-term wise, be super patient. Don't micromanage it. Don't go and itchy fingers touch here, touch there all the time. It's a bit like growing a plant like that. If you grow a plant and got some leaf already, I can touch the leaf, pull the leaf, try to move it up and down. Or worse, go and touch the roots, adjust the roots, try to move it nearer to the sun and water. What happens? The plant will die, correct? When it's finally germinating, give it space, give it time to blossom flowers for you. And how we relate to this CPF life cycle fund, again, because it's liquid, I believe, there's no lock-in. If an investor is impatient already, naturally the investment journey is not going to be fantastic. Naturally, losses cannot be prevented. And to this point, also another situation. What if someone has bought the CPF life cycle fund? Someone young, 90%, that's what we see, correct? Over here, 90% in equities, 10% in bonds. Then market had a crash, global financial crisis, AI bubble crack. Then what happened? Equity investments, of course, in negative, correct? And then just nice, this person has a kid ready. The house too small. Want to upgrade house. Then how? Sell this portfolio, right? Need funds already, what? Will that young investor see losses? Possibly yes again. Because again, CPF Lifecycle Fund is not interest rate, it's market returns. Helping you participate in the market, changing the asset allocation over the years as you move towards retirement. But if there's something that changed along the way, your goals change, things can get short-circuited and there can be risks of failure. This is also where proper advice comes in, tailoring to the individual situation. So as always, if you agree, smash the like button. Press on subscribe as I share more details with you once news continue to release how they are developing. And we recap again. Today what we drew out, patience is the most important of our 4-factor framework. Patience is biggest. Second is tolerance. Then it's strategy. CPF Lifecycle product can solve some of this. And last but not least, fees. This is where CPF Lifecycle does the best. But the investor needs to know this is still part of the puzzle. There's still a lot of work to do. There's still a lot of reasons why someone succeeds and someone doesn't. Hope you learned something today. Look for my links below to reach me and my ebook, and I'll see you in a future episode. Take care as always, invest safely. Goodbye.